Mark, my friend, what is happening?
Just waiting to unload about this controversial call.
Pittsburgh, we got to get right into it, man. This was uh, unbelievable, unbelievable when it comes to just a nail biter of a show. We're going to go through, we'll go through Derek, we'll go through Nick, we'll go through Krizo and Martin for sure, right? Bonac, obviously.
Krizo. Almost forgot about Krizo.
Man, he
There's a lot to
really
talk
will.
about with Krizo.
I was all I will say to start is that I was slightly disappointed in some ways, but we'll talk about that in a second. We got to talk about Nick. We got to talk about Derek. Derek taking home the win at the end of the day. Agree or disagree?
Well, you can't complain about it. I would have picked Nick. But I'm not going to be the one to say it's a robbery and I'm going to throw up my arms. But I would have liked to heard these people's opinions before they called Derek to say, "Do you think it's close?" They probably all would have said, "Yeah, it's close, but I got Nick winning." Okay, well that means you can't really call it a robbery.
I don't think it
I
was a
did have
robbery.
I did have
I,
Nick
I
winning.
okay, and look, 80% of the bodybuilding world, I think, and that's not an exaggeration. I think about 80% of the bodybuilding world after the fact said they also had Nick winning. A robbery?
Yeah.
No. A robbery, I think, is different because a robbery has to, when a robbery happens, it's when it's not as close as it was between Derek and Nick. In this case, I, uh, I think it was more of the fact that it was so close, between the two that like
Yeah,
shows
they were
happen
twin tiebreakers.
exactly,
So,
right? Shows happen where people say, well, it could have went either way. I think that there's arguments for that in particular. So because of that, I don't think that you can call it a robbery. A robbery, I think, by definition, is when somebody is a clear winner with very little argument for the other competitor, but they still lose. There's arguments for Derek, legitimate. There's arguments for Nick, legitimate. We'll talk about a couple of them here. Why is it that people had Derek winning, most importantly, the judges, over Nick? Well, one thing you can say for sure is structure wise, in a lot of poses, Derek does have a better flow than Nick does, no question. It seemed like Derek had a little bit more depth to his physique, I think, overall. Like when you look at the back double, I think that Nick had a fantastic back double, and obviously it's just one pose, but I don't think there's many in bodybuilding really out there right now that can push Derek as much as Nick did in the back double. With that being said, Derek has the best back double in bodybuilding. I think there's no question. The depth, the 3D look, the width of the lats that come down into the waist, and like it's a shred from perfection.
well, my problem was the lower half. He looked very petite. Their backs looked to be about the same size, and when you looked at Nick compared to Derek, his legs looked little tiny. So the proportions, in my opinion, were way off. When you look at those back comparisons, it just looked, when you see Nick, it's like, well, he's perfectly proportioned. And that's the back. Front's a
Yep.
different story. Front's a different story. The midsection, you can discuss that in a whenever, but for as far as the back shots were concerned, it was more than just the condition. I mean, the condition was good for both,
Sure.
but you look at the lower half and you look at the upper half, you look like his proportions were way off.
So for
And
you, proportions from top to bottom were better for Nick than they were for Derek.
yeah,
Okay.
that was the clincher for me for maybe even both back shots. Even
Okay.
though
Okay.
Derek, like you said, he does have depth. You can grab right a hold.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That 3D look, it's there. No question. But Nick also has the biceps. It is a rear double bicep at the
The
end of the day.
whole ensemble. He has the ensemble.
The ensemble. Oui.
Calves.
Yep. So again, this is where the arguments come in of really nitpicking between two competitors where it really, really was close. Even if you don't want to go off of things like conditioning or fullness or, who had more detail. you can go pose by pose, well, with all those factors, of course, but when you look at some of the poses, in the front, I think that there was arguments for both legitimately.
Exactly. Maybe not the
From
front
this,
lat. Nick was not he was holding his own in that front lat, but I think he was
it's
still
better,
losing.
better than it's been, but still not enough to beat Derek.
From the front, that's how I see it. Everybody sees it different. From the front, Derek. I'd have Derek.
From the side, what do you think?
Well, a lot of people have differing opinions about the side. I heard
They
the
do.
announcers talking, and I'm like, well, that's the exact opposite of how I kind of see it. But Derek looked huge from the side chest point of view. His upper body, he was tilted just so.
Yep.
And
Yep.
standing next to Nick. I mean, it could go either way. And the side tricep I was given to Nick because of the midsection.
I actually think that it was less of a really less of a determining factor when it came to the side leg. When it came for
Yeah.
the side chest, Nick's side leg, I preferred Nick's side leg, and I think
Both
that he
were
just
good.
has
Yeah.
yeah, and I just think he has more kind of roundness in that side chest. It just looks more funny enough. I personally think that it looked more, well, I guess I shouldn't say aesthetically pleasing, but from a bodybuilding perspective, he had more of that roundness pop and that freak factor. It is like Nick just has it. I just think that he looks more
Yeah.
3D. I think that he had a better
Bigger.
side leg. Yeah. I just think that he had
You
it,
could say he's winning from the side.
Sure you could.
But is he
From the
winning from the
back,
side more so than Derek winning from the front?
is he winning from the side more so than Derek is from the front?
Nick's wheels, I noticed. As soon as he walked out and they stood next to each other, Nick's wheels looked more conditioned. The conditioning looked like it was better for Nick. But then again, your midsection, that can kind of look at Phil Heath versus Sean Roden. Know what I'm
You're right.
saying? But Sean Roden
No,
had a peeled midsection.
you're right. You're right. But to your question, I think that because of the front lat spread and Derek, I think just being further ahead than Nick in that pose, I would say that Derek is more dominant from the front than Nick is from the side.
I
Because
probably agree.
yeah, that side tricep for both of those guys was really, really good. I preferred Nick's again, partly because of that freak factor and the detail that he had in that side leg. But the difference between the front lat spreads, I think, are just too far apart on Derek's side of things. So I
That's
would give the front
one pose that's strong. Like if they're all
exactly,
close and you got one, really doesn't matter your opinion, does it? It's like, well, this
exactly.
one, he is winning this one.
Yeah. So from the front, I'd give it to Derek. From the side, I would have it Nick, but there's more argument for Derek from the side than there is in the front. From the front, Derek is better because of the front lat. From the back, there's definitely arguments to make. I know that there are a lot of people that will argue the fact that Derek was more dominant from the back, but I do think that it was fairly close, closer than I think a lot of people expected. Closer than they expected. When it comes to
I
the
think
abs and thigh, sorry, no, go ahead. We'll talk about the abs and thigh.
I think the people were more surprised how big and good Derek was, or Nick was compared to Derek.
Yep.
Because I think everybody was expecting Nick to, because his New York back was not as good. I did a comparison, and the back was the biggest difference. His back lat spread was almost as good as Hadi Choopan's,
And Nick has a ridiculous back lat spread. He's closer to beating Derek in the back lat spread than he is in the back double by.
which surprises me because
Does
his
it?
back lat, his back lat was used to be. He used to get concaved in his right side. He used to cave in. Look at the Olympia when he lost to Hunter, which was a robbery too. Huh?
No, no, this one wasn't a robbery. I don't think it was. You can't get. I hear you.
85%. I said. I did. I went out there and I said, if 85% of you guys say it's a robbery, you have to agree. That's 85% of the public. But it's only 78 that voted. So I can't call it a robbery. 78's not a
Okay.
robbery. Like you said, 80% is not a robbery. 85
A
has to
court of
be.
public opinion. And that is fair. That's fairly
Bodybuilding's
valid.
based on people's opinions. If that
Absolutely.
many people, what's the point of these little people huddling back? No, we're still saying he wins. Get out of here.
You're right. You're right.
But Derek is 25%. That's still a lot of people.
Well, you should go back and look at Nick's hand placement in the back lat spread because he actually has his palms facing outward instead of a lot of guys take their thumbs and they'll put it on their lower back, right? Nick actually didn't do that this time. He had his palms facing outward and all of his fingers were flat, like this side of his fingers were flat on his back.
See this, what you're talking about here.
It's different. It is. I am going to bring this up so that people see what I'm saying because I think that this is something that a lot of people missed.
You're saying, so sing.
Know what I'm saying? So, the back lat spread, as you can see, right?
How did Marx Max Muscle not notice that? Huh?
I think that obviously Nick did make improvements, I think, from a size standpoint, but look at the width, even from the traps to, you know, the upper back to the lower back. You can see that with the hands outward like this, it allows him to spread out his arms further, but still keep his shoulders down and create the illusion of more width.
You know what I'm saying? Symmetrical. Oh, no, exactly. Yes. Little hand placements can... A lot of the people with the best biceps in the world, they put their thumb right in there.
Absolutely.
It's hilarious too. And it's like, maybe that helps. I do it, but it doesn't give me the big pipes that some of these guys have.
Well, it's because you're not taking exogenous amounts of, you know, performance enhancing drugs as well.
Well, that and the food and the training.
But anyway, they definitely help. At the end of the day, like I said, Nick, I would have Nick winning if it was me. I'm looking forward to Tyler Mannion's wrap up, which I'm assuming he's going to do. Oh, okay.
I mentioned it in that video that I did when I read people's comments because somebody did say they can't wait to hear. And I'm like, it's going to be padded. Unless you can talk to the guy and ask him a question and get his answer, I could care less to hear what he has to say about it. He picked him. That's his opinion.
Well, it is his opinion.
If there was going to be a debate, like to have somebody ask him questions, but I get it. I'm not a Nick fanboy. I get it. I've seen his stomach stick out a few times.
Sure. No question. Nobody is denying that.
Other people stick out their guts and still win, though.
I just want to hear Tyler confirm what I think are the reasons why Nick didn't win. I just want to hear him confirm it. That's all. We'll see if he does or not. But let's look at third place, Martin Fitzwater. Deserved it?
I mean, did anybody care? I mean, Bonac over him could have been a worse robbery, and nobody would have batted an eye.
I don't think so. No,
are you going to go over the abs and thigh and most muscular with Derek and Nick?
Eric wins the abs and thigh. Nick wins the most muscular. That's pretty blatantly obvious, I think. Do you think?
Could go either way with the abs and thigh, I think.
Nick's was okay. You know, like control of that midsection.
I picked Derek because of the shape.
Yeah, so do I. But most muscular, Nick's got one of the best in the world right now. No questions asked.
That's the biggest pose right there. That's bigger than the front lat spread. The difference.
Yep. Yes, it is. I definitely 100% agree with that. No question. And actually, it's further to your point. We talk about Martin. You just want to go back to Nick and Derek, right?
Well, no. I just wanted to put that baby to bed because I wanted to establish that Nick was clearly winning that most muscular.
You're right. But for a guy that took fourth at the Olympia this year, I don't think that there was a lot of conversation surrounding Martin post-show as of right now. I haven't seen many people speak about him, you know?
You think he competed too many times? Not too many times, but spaced apart where you can't really have a break. You can't continue to diet. You know what I mean? One show after another, 1 week. That's probably easier to do than to wait a few months, then do another show, wait a few months, do another show. So that's what he's been doing.
You know what? When you think about it, yeah, he did New York Pro last year, And then where did
Detroit.
he go from? Yeah, he went and
He
did
did
Detroit,
Detroit, then New York.
then New
Detroit,
York.
New York, Olympia,
Yep,
Prague, Arnold. Or
yep.
no,
No, no, not the Arnold.
no.
No, but
No, he
Prague
didn't beat
to
the Arnold.
no,
To
but Prague to
Pittsburgh.
now.
Pittsburgh. So no time to really have a grow. You're
No,
basically gonna maybe get a layer of water and then drop it.
he's definitely had to stay very consistently lean for close to a year now, really, when you think about it. So there's not a lot of opportunity to take a break. I think that it's good of him to try and capitalize as much as possible when it comes to his current bodybuilding career because,
Absolutely.
it can be short for a professional bodybuilder. And he is a young guy, so he should be able to really handle it, right? We look at guys like you talked about Dennis James. Dennis is one of them. Lee Priest, guys like that back in the day, they would compete in multiple shows for years, every year, without question.
Milos.
Milos, man, the guy competed a ridiculous amount of times. But for Martin, I think he does maybe need a break. He lacked that polish. I'm not saying that he lacked conditioning
No.
overall, but I do think that he lacked some pop, and
Yeah, his body looks a little tired, a little worn
it
out.
looks tired. Yep, it looks tired.
And Bonac looked just so rejuvenated.
That guy is incredible. It's incredible that he continues to improve at his age, being in his like mid 40s. How old is
43.
Bonac?
That magic number,
43.
43. I'm telling you, that's the magic number.
Okay. You could be right. Bonac would certainly be a testament to that. Bonac
Well,
was
there's been two
ridiculous.
Olympia champions, 43.
You think Bonac will be an Olympia champion?
No, but there's already been two before him. No,
Neither do I. But look,
it's
that's
too late.
not.
It's too late.
Yeah, look,
You'd
that's
have to
not
get
taking
what's her
anything
name
away from
there,
him, though.
Tanya Harding, to go around and take that, Derek, take that, Nick, and Samson, take one of these. And if you did that, you'd only really have to take out a few guys.
Well, look, and it only takes a few of these guys to not show up, at their 100%. And Bonac did. He was 100%. It was fantastic, you know, and he ended up beating Martin for it. That doesn't mean that
Sure.
he's going to beat him at the Olympia if Martin takes the time in order to kind of rejuvenate, come off of the PEDs, stop dieting so hard, take a bit of a rest, and then come back and shoot for that top 4, top 5 at the Olympia again.
Yeah, they say Martin doesn't mind dieting,
His
which
body
can,
might
that's
mentally.
what I mean, which can lead you to wearing yourself out because you don't realize your body's needs a needs a little bit of time off the dieting.
Mentally, maybe his body doesn't mind, but physically, if it's not going to respond, then you have to be able to take that into account just as much as anything else. So actually, if you have too much ambition, which is funny to say in bodybuilding, it can actually be a detriment to your overall
That
physique when you hit the stage.
that I'm telling you right now, that kills physiques. You
Oh
have a
yeah,
game plan in mind, bodybuilding game plan. You get these people that are just so ego driven. They'll say, "Oh, we have a push-up competition or a deadlift. They're gonna have to go do it." And it's like, well, you're gonna hurt your, you know, you can't run in a marathon if you're or sprint. You can't sprint. I know some people, Tony O'Burton runs. I'm not gonna say he's doing the wrong thing, but running's probably
absolutely
not
not.
the best thing to do if you're training for a bodybuilding show. Of course, Tonio's a freak. He could probably get away with it and still look the same.
Yeah, Tonio is an anomaly, man. Ever since he did that Arnold Brazil back in 2024,
Yeah,
and he was
winning the cup.
overtraining with the Brazilian, he
Yeah,
just really started doing very intense, high volume training with heavyweight, and it served him extremely, extremely well.
he's not that heavy, but he
He's
has
like
the
230.
illusion. But he have the illusion of a great big mass monster. So a
Yeah,
guy like
and he
him
is.
can get away with running a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I would have loved to see him in the New York Pro going up
Mm,
against Nick. And Nick is confirmed for the New York Pro as well.
yes, it'll
Yeah,
be his third New York Pro title.
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. But so Martin deservedly took his place, as did Bonac. But
So you do have
Krizo,
Martin over Bonac. Just too much.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I don't think I necessarily have a problem with it. You know, I don't think I have a problem with it.
Hmm.
But if I was to choose, I don't know. I just think Bonac had more of that polish. Structurally, Martin I think beats him, and there's a lot of that. Well, look at why a lot of people make the argument for Derek taking this show. Structure, right? So all of the things being comparable, structure is very heavily awarded in bodybuilding these days. It used to be conditioning as the number one factor, presumably, as people would perceive. Now it really seems the emphasis is on overall structure. Martin beats Bonac in that sense.
This is true. Martin should beat Nick
That's
then.
just how it is. But Krizo was, I don't think it was surprising the placing that Krizo took necessarily. The thing about Krizo. So first off, conditioning, fantastic, right? We've seen him conditioned, I think, before. This was probably his best. This was probably his best. But the
Yeah, the
things
finals at the Olympia 2023, he was very shredded.
I'd have to
Maybe
go
not
back
quite.
and
Yeah, he was pretty shredded there.
yeah,
At the
that
finals
Empro
in
Classic.
particular.
What was it? The Empro 2023. That was one of his best looks too.
Yeah, the lighting was so terrible.
Yeah, you're
No,
right.
I
It was.
agree. The Pittsburgh was probably his most conditioned. The funny thing is, condition's not his problem. He is the exact opposite of Andrew Jack. If those
Tell
two
me.
could combine their efforts, him teach him how to pose and him teach him how to get conditioned.
Okay, what do you think the problem with Krizo's posing is? I'm interested to hear what you say.
He can't relax. He can't take a
Why?
time in his mind and say you're posing. He just and he goes and has 5 or 6 cigarettes. I heard he
Exact,
smokes. I know it
dude.
comes from the comment section below, but sometimes those guys know.
No. I can actually show you a short that I did. Krizo, I actually have a picture of Krizo from after his first Olympia where he's smoking a dart or something.
Or something. It's funny nowadays. It's like they frown more upon the tobacco. And it's like, well, you talk
Well,
to
it
an old person. It's like, well, no,
might
tobacco.
still be illegal down there. I don't know. Where was that? Vegas, I think, or I don't know. Might still be illegal there. Anyway,
It's definitely frowned upon.
regardless, Krizo breathes so heavy still.
And his lips
It's
go out like this.
very noticeable. Very noticeable, man.
One other thing I noticed about Krizo that maybe somebody else in your audience may have noticed. The guy had a little something wrong with his tights. He kept digging at his back of
Did
his
he?
tights. You didn't see that?
I didn't take notice in particular. No.
Well, there was the scene there, even at the very end when they were zooming into Derek and Nick. They should have brought them to the center, first of all.
Yeah.
But they were way over there, and Krizo was like right there, and he was still at it because I noticed he was doing it earlier on.
Maybe one of the guys was playing a trick on him, like Arnold used to do to people.
He put cayenne pepper or something in there. There was something going on.
Well, there you go. That could be distracting. That could be distracting. You certainly noticed,
But
without
physique
question.
wise, to get more serious, he'd look great. He just doesn't know how to present it well. And I noticed a
Yeah.
little bit of a Buddha belly too.
Oh man, especially like after he was given his award, he just let that thing hang out. There was a
Oh, yeah.
bad angle where Krizo was right in front of Derek and Nick, and it was
That's
just
the one where he's picking away at it. Watch that video again, and you'll see.
Okay.
You'll see.
Okay.
You noticed
Well,
Nick's hands. I didn't see that.
if there's one thing that I definitely agree with when it comes to Bob Ciccarillo is that Bob says that you were judged the entire time that you were on that stage. And for me, just because Krizo was given that award, I don't think that's necessarily the time when you should, let it all hang out. You're still on
Especially he
stage.
was getting a pretty good placing considering all things considered. He was late. And
He was late. What happened there, I wonder?
cigarette. Him and Pavel having a
Yes.
cigarette out back. I
His nerve
guarantee it.
for his nerves. Yeah.
You mentioned Bob, and I hate to give Bob credit because he pats himself on the back enough, but he's the one to say, you can't have your emotions involved in this. I wanted Nick to win just as much as everybody else. You have to
Oh, I
kind
do
of.
too.
He says there's 4 or 5 different stories. There's the mother that wants his son to win, and then the guy that knows how hard he worked. The judges don't care about any of that stuff. No, they don't, and you can't.
But it's not about the judges when it comes to that. Actually, I actually said that to Bob the first time I had him on my channel. That's one of the things that I wanted to say to him because look, I've watched a good number of videos on Bob's channel. I like the fact that Bob will tell it like it is, regardless of where he may be, positioned close to the IFBB and announcing shows, all that fun shit. I still like the fact that he'll put out exactly what he thinks, regardless of
Yeah.
if you agree with it or not. But I said to Bob, one of the things I really wanted to hammer home, and I did right away within the first 2 minutes of the video, was the fact that he always says that people don't care about the journey in bodybuilding. They only care about the results. He said like the judges always, it doesn't matter how you got there, but the fans care about the journey.
Fans do. Big time.
We
And
do.
you could hear that when they asked,
journey.
when he said, "Do you think Derek won?" You hear about 5 people in the corridor. Probably his mom. Or do you want Nick to win?
Right?
So they know the journey. It's important to them.
It's important to us as commentators and as fans of bodybuilding. So I wholeheartedly disagree with the fact that Bob says it's not about the journey, because it is. He talks about wanting personalities in bodybuilding. That's part of that. That's a big part of that. That's how the personalities come out. It's not just at the press conference at the Olympia or, an interview on NPC News Online before a show. It is definitely about what they put out there for content, how they're feeling, what it is they're going through, their training, just being able to see how much these guys are suffering, or not. It's part of the journey. It's part of why we follow it. No question.
This is true. But the ending results, the winner will be the winner. The winner will be the winner.
Exactly. That is what really matters at the end of the day. But we can still appreciate the journey, and we do. Anyway,
look at Dorian Yates. Those videos. People didn't know how these guys got these big muscles. They thought they're gonna take a couple steroids and you're gonna go home. But that blood and guts videos. People are like,
man.
"Oh my God, what are these people doing?"
Legendary.
He should have calmed down and did some volume though right before the shows instead of continuing on with that. It hurt himself.
It did come back to bite him. That's no question there.
Well, you train like that to get big, but when you're 5% body fat, you're not growing muscle. Just maintain it a little bit.
There's no need to anyway.
No,
he did the hard work.
He was the clear winner. He didn't want to win. He wanted to just be a freak.
He was. Yeah, he was. Okay. New York Pro coming up. Nick's going in. Nick wants his Olympia qualification. Like you said, Nick wants to be the first person to win 3 New York Pro titles. Can he do it?
Who else is I don't think there's anybody that can touch Nick. Who's there? Regan Grimes? Canadian-wise, he has the potential to be maybe the best Canadian bodybuilder. Paul Dillette ruined his potential.
Regan does. He does have that kind of potential. As of right now,
than Ian Valliere, I find.
Well, Ian is the most accomplished Canadian bodybuilder, I think, at this point.
No, Paul Dillette and oh my God.
Who else?
1981.
1981.
I can't believe I can't think of his name. Roy Callender, for God's sakes. Roy Callender. He placed 3rd at the Olympia. 3rd or 4th? 4th.
How many times?
Just the once.
Okay.
But he placed 5th and 6th or whatever, but he placed 4th, which is higher than Ian. And Paul Dillette placed 4th as well.
How many shows?
They competed.
How many pro shows did Ian win versus Roy Callender?
Oh, pro shows? I don't know.
I'm talking like kind of a pound for pound type thing, best Canadian bodybuilder. Ian won a lot of shows.
I'm just talking
Good
Olympia. qualifications because there was
I
a lot
see.
of shows back then. There was a lot of Canada shows, and he was Canadian.
Well, in that case, maybe the argument could be made. And well, not just an argument. Maybe that is the case. I'm not familiar enough with Roy Callender's career. You're the
Oh,
historian. I'm just
Roy
the reviewer.
Callender, he competed a long time before that as well, and he quit. I think he did actually pro wrestling, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Roy
Okay.
Callender, awesome physique, very underrated.
We'll have to go back and look. But anyway, we go way out, as we often do.
Yeah,
That's the
we're
bodybuilding.
Canadian, eh? We talk about Canadian bodybuilders too, huh?
Certainly do. They do. I always enjoy seeing the Canadians compete. You can't help it. You can't help it. But
IFBB pro Robin Strand.
he's doing Chicago. So is Morgan McDonald. And
Morgan looking big.
he did a guest posing recently.
Yes.
He's looking very big.
Shades on there, and his little chain.
And in full posing trunks. So he's confident, man.
Yes.
He's confident. Like, I'll see about getting those guys on, actually, maybe this week coming up for something. But
I can't believe I missed a chance to meet that guy.
You've got time. We'll go to the Toronto
Pro. But I was in the same building as him.
Well, we'll go to the Toronto Pro this year.
You
I'll pick you up on the way through. We'll see what happens. But anyway, New York, when it comes to Nick, who else do we have going into that show as of right now?
Bonac?
I'm not sure.
He's not going to get out of shape. Might as well just jump in.
Yeah, might as well. Yeah. Colossus Ken, he's going to be in there.
Who? Oh, Colossus Ken. Oh, that's right. I'm excited to see him.
Yes. Very. I think wasn't Krizo supposed to do New York as well?
He's got the shakes, you see.
That's not going to go away in a week. Oh, I don't think so. Maybe a couple more cigarettes. Yeah, or something else.
And then he's like, I don't think it is something else. I think something else probably wouldn't hurt him as bad as the cigarettes.
I feel like you're right. I feel like you're right.
That way, anyway.
No, I feel like you're right. But regardless, I don't see anybody that I know of right now coming in and defeating Nick in New York, especially right now.
Brett's not competing in New York.
Brett Wilkin? No, Brett's qualified already.
Oh. He won a show.
Yes. Brett's already qualified.
He did that before, and he kind of backed away out of the Olympia.
He did. Yeah, he did. I think he's full steam ahead this time.
He's looking sharp right now, though. He just did a guest posing. He looks like he's ready to go.
Yeah, maybe something changed.
No,
maybe something changed.
He wants to be super lean.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. But, for Nick, I think that 3 New York Pro titles is going to be... Nick...
One guy I know that could beat Nick that you're going to say, like, I don't think he could. But I think he could. Behrooz Tabani.
Well, we won't see Behrooz compete against Nick, unfortunately, unless Nick goes overseas, because Behrooz will not make it here.
He should just move to U.S.
I think he would if he could.
That's so easy for me to say, isn't it?
Well, I don't think nobody's moving to the U.S. right now, denied. Even us Canadians are having trouble fucking dealing with that right now. But anyway. But anyway, no, Behrooz would be a good one. I think that Behrooz could potentially beat Nick.
He's one of the only few guys that I can think of in the whole roster that could beat Nick.
Like in the IFBB right now?
The IFBB? I think he beat Derek, and Derek just beat the Olympia champion, so who else do you got?
That's a statement. Wow. That's a statement.
Now, a lot of 80% of the people say that he beat the guy that beat the Olympia champion. Rankings are off the charts, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't wait to see the comment section.
How would you rank a guy that beat, because the Olympia champion's the champion. You're ranked number 1, you're under him. But what if you beat him? Derek's out of the charts. And what if some guy beat him? That's why they didn't let Nick win. That in the midsection.
In the midsection. Behrooz definitely has a superior midsection. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
He ain't letting her go.
No,
it's like some of these guys like Hadi don't have it to let go. It's not even there. Chris
No, it's
Bumstead
not. It's
could
not.
not even push it out if he wanted to.
No. Tonio has a lower ab thing going on. I don't know exactly. I can't remember exactly what it is, but the width of the midsection, no question. Now here's one question for you though. Do you think Nick will be better in New York than he was in Pittsburgh? And if so, where can he improve?
I think he'll just keep an eye on his midsection more. That's all he really has to do, but I don't think he's going to be. It'll be a Hadi Choopan Arnold UK situation where he's just as good. Well, maybe not quite, but I think he'll maintain the midsection a little bit better.
Okay. Okay.
When they announce his
Uh,
name as the winner, he's going to look better.
well, certainly. I think that Nick could gain. Definitely, he needs to concentrate on that midsection. I've always been very complimentary of Nick's midsection control. I will maintain that, even given what we saw at the finals in Pittsburgh. However, I do want to see even more control in New York.
There was a
And I
couple
think
of
that's
points where
something
it
that he'll
really came out.
recognize. Yeah, I think he'll recognize that. I think he will. I think him and his coach will probably do something different between prejudging and finals in order to make sure that that midsection stays down. I don't know what their protocol was between prejudging and finals, but there could have been something added. It could have been a food thing. It could have been a
Well,
water
exactly
manipulation
it
thing.
was. Look how carved up he was. Look how huge he was. It goes with the territory. If he's going to be flat,
Sure.
if he wants a thin midsection, he might come in flat.
There might be a balance there where they simply maybe reduce the amount of carbs or the type of carb that he intakes in order to keep that midsection smaller but still get that fullness. That's a possibility. And I think he can do it. I
Look at New
definitely think he
York.
can do it.
New York, his midsection was a little bit bigger and his muscles were a little bit smaller, and it made a big difference. I know you brought
Yeah.
that comparison up, but if you look at the most muscular in that comparison, you'll see what I
Hmm.
mean. His midsection and his body just looks one little tweak and he looks so much better.
Okay. Okay. No, I think I can agree with that. If but those are the only things that Nick needs to really do in order to defeat his Pittsburgh Pro physique. Keep that midsection in control. And I think that keeping that fullness throughout prejudging and the finals is going to be a determining factor too. Conditioning wise, I don't know if he could have been any sharper. I mean, he was sharp, man.
No. And he's going to look better anyway because he's going to be next to guys that aren't Derek and Martin Fitzwater.
Yeah. Now, one other question I have regarding Derek in particular. We just watched Derek defeat our current Mr. Olympia. I think that his physique was actually better at the Arnold Classic. Holy shit, my chair went down.
Wonder what was going on there.
I'm still here. I'm still here. Fucking hotel room. It's not my regular chair. Anyway, I think that Derek's Arnold physique was better than its Pittsburgh Pro physique, but how it doesn't matter really because Derek just defeated Samson Dowda and now defeated Nick Walker, who still can be argued to be maybe one of the top three guys coming up at the Olympia,
He's
right?
got to be better than Samson, isn't he? Nobody batted an eye when Derek beat Samson.
Nope.
But 80% of folks are upset when Nick loses to Derek. That must mean that Nick's better than Samson. Unless, like you said, Derek was not as good at Pittsburgh.
So where does this leave Derek though? Does this leave Derek with the momentum that he had after defeating Samson, or are there more questions now because Nick was so very very close to defeating Derek? When you look at the difference between
That's
what could be Samson, Nick, and Derek right now, where are they going to land at the Olympia?
that's not going to hurt Derek. I think it's going to bother Derek, and he's going to. Okay, you think I lost? 80% of you guys think I lost? Okay, it's going to light a fire, right? If he
Okay.
won, no matter what, like he won at the Arnold, and he figured he'll stroll into Pittsburgh. I'm a winner, but he didn't look as good. You always look better after you lose. It's like
Okay.
UFC fighters. The UFC fighters, when they lose their next fight, watch out.
You're not wrong when it comes to that. Not every fighter pulls that off, and not every
No,
bodybuilder pulls it
no.
off either.
It can
You
get you
know,
down. It can get you down.
but Derek, I think it did definitely light a fire under his ass. And if he can carry that mindset into the Olympia, because for me, I think that there is more of a question now, given the fact that Derek did the Pittsburgh Pro and compared against Nick. If Derek had to skip Pittsburgh, then he would have had, I think, more momentum as being a challenger to Samson and more so beating him than
Yeah,
now there's this question of Nick. It's like, well, Derek definitely
yeah,
beat Samson, but Nick,
yeah.
like you said, may have beaten Nick. So, or Nick may have beaten Derek. So now
But
the top three is going to be like, how are you
but
going to predict that?
if Derek didn't compete and Nick won, there'd be little dingbats like me on the entire net doing comparisons, and Nick would have blown Derek out of the water in those picture comparisons because there's no gut transitions, and everybody would have agreed, oh yeah, Nick's beating Derek. So that could have hurt him too. It's doing the actual shows that help Derek, the transitions, holding the gut in. So picture comparison between Nick at the Pittsburgh and Derek at the Arnold, Nick would win.
The top three is totally up in the air. You could almost go with top five. Well, yeah, Hadi Choopan, right?
Is
Yeah.
Hadi going to make it? I heard he might not make it to the Olympia.
The reason that Hadi was making it was because he was sponsored by Evogen Nutrition and was reportedly, I should say, a employee of Evogen, which allowed him to get a work visa easier or whatever status of visa, he was able to obtain it as being an employee of the company, is what I've been told. Now that I don't think he's with Evogen anymore. I don't actually, I shouldn't necessarily say that. In fact, I'm going to look it up just to be sure. But the fact that he's not coached by Hani anymore, I think might be a factor. No, he is still with Evogen. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
His time
He might still
may
make it
have
then.
passed.
No, maybe if he's still with Evogen and he's still, a perceived employee of the company, he's made it the last few years. I think he'll do it again. So throw him into the mix.
He's got a
What's
darn
going to
good
happen?
average at the Olympia when you think about it.
Sure, he does.
He's never been out of the rankings since he's began.
No, he's won the People's Champion Award. Like
Twice.
consistent twice. That's
I
right.
think he won it twice.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he won it in 2019, and then he won it again the
And there
year he
was
lost
always an
Brandon and Ramy, I think 2021.
yep. Hadi's defeated all of those guys. So could he do it again? Definitely.
No.
You don't
His,
think?
no. His time has passed. One leg smaller than the other. He has got Tyrannosaurus Rex arms, and I just got unsubscribed by a bunch of his fans. I'm just joking, guys. Hattie's still in there.
No, you're having my fans unsubscribe because you're on my channel.
Sorry, guys. No, come on back. EP09. He rescued the
They should
dog.
have. Please subscribe and use EP10 on BayouMuscles.com. Please don't leave me. No, I don't think Hadi's done. I think Hadi could still win another Olympia. Now, I don't think he has another couple years. I think this has to be the year that he does it again. But I don't think he's
Very
done.
difficult. It's so very difficult to get back in to win the title after you lose it. Because they're looking for a new champion. They got Samson there. And, well, Derek's in his 20s. And when it's for the win, Hadi versus Derek, when it's for second and third, they'll let it slide and give it to Hadi. But if it was for the first and second, they probably would have went with Derek.
Well, you say they're looking for a new champion. The new champion would be Nick. Samson's won it. Derek's won it. Hadi's won it. The new champion would be Nick.
Should be the guy that they're looking at.
Now, you have predicted Nick Walker to win the Olympia in the past. Sure. I believe it was 2024 that you predicted Nick going into that show to win.
3.
Was it 3?
Yeah.
When he had the injury?
Yeah.
Because that year, the year he had the hamstring injury, you predicted him to win
That's
that year.
2023.
It was 20. Yeah, okay.
Last
You're right.
year,
Yeah.
last year he dropped out for fake gear.
Yeah, sorry. I'm ahead of you. You're right. So, given the fact that you have
That
predicted
year,
Nick to,
he could have won it that year.
do you think that he could win it this year?
Will the judges give it to him? Probably not.
Why
So
do you
there's
think
that.
that Nick could win it this year when you're seeing Derek at his best, Samson better than he's ever been, Hadi Choopan in my opinion, unpredictable? Why do you think it could be Nick now?
Because Derek, he didn't come into his all-time best at the Olympia, and it can be the great Olympia jinx. You come in there and you get nervous. Nick wants to win it more so than anyone.
Okay.
He ain't messing up. He always brings the condition. He maintains that midsection.
Okay. Okay. I agree with you that I think it'll be very tough for the judges to give it to Nick. I think it's going to be tough. Do I think he can win it this year? I don't know. I don't know. I want to say yes, but objectively, I think that that would be my overarching opinion is the judges I don't think are going to give it to him. I just don't
That's
think
good.
so.
Yeah. And it's
If
a
everybody
downer.
else is if everybody else is a little bit off, then yes, that's always been the thing with Nick. If everybody else is just a little bit off, then Nick could definitely, I think, win it. But it's going to take everybody else being a little bit off.
Samson's been off sometimes.
Yep. So is Derek. You
Yeah,
know,
people say Derek always so consistent, and I'm like, he only competed at 2 Olympias. Calm down. He got to prove himself to be consistent. That's 2 shows. And the third
yep.
one, he was a little soft. He was off. Last year, he was a little soft.
That's right.
And I
Yep.
just did a comparison. I put Nick in the Olympia lineup, and Derek's hamstrings were like smooth as cream corn.
Cream corn. I get what you're saying. So there is a path for Nick to win the Olympia. Um, but I think that that's what it's going to take. I think that it's pretty much what it's always been for Nick since he really started competing in the Olympia back in 2022. Everybody else just has to be a little bit off.
I think the fact that they had to do a tiebreaker proves that, yes, absolutely he can win the Olympia. Wasn't like Derek destroyed him. No. It was closer between them two than it was Samson and Derek. Obviously, if they didn't do a tiebreaker between Samson and Derek.
Sure.
And Bob Ciccarello. This guy, he makes me laugh. He really does. He says, no, I'm going to have to shoot that down. I don't think he can possibly win the Olympia title. 2022. Let's rewind the tape back. Nick Walker, he beat the Olympia champion. He beat the Olympia champion. How can you say a guy can't be an Olympia champion when he defeats the Olympia champion on the Olympia stage?
Well, he did defeat the Olympia champion, but I think that was a different version of both of them. So,
well, you know what I'm saying. If an
well,
Olympia
I do
champion
know.
can be off, that just proves an Olympia champion can be off, and Nick could capitalize and win.
I agree. I agree.
I think he
But
should have won that year anyway.
Well, that's the most realistic path for Nick this year, I think. Pretty much that's what it's going to take, I think. And given what we're seeing, like you said, maybe it is past Hadi's prime time. Maybe it is something where Derek could end up slipping and Nick going past him. Maybe Samson, same thing is a possibility. It's possible.
I think it could go down to Samson and Nick, and Samson will probably win again.
Could
And
very well be.
Nick would be happy with beating Derek and Hadi. That's why I
Sure
think
he would.
Hadi was okay last year because he beat Derek. I think if he had been third, he would have threw a little temper tantrum.
Yeah, another one. Yeah. Yeah, I can agree
Emotions
with
are
that.
high.
Well, it is the Olympia, and They're giving away a lot of money now, a lot of money. That's only going to keep going up.
How could it be so much money and that'd be the last thing on these guys' minds? Isn't that crazy? It's like Nick didn't care about that extra 50,000 at that Pittsburgh. That was the last thing on his mind. He would have taken the 50 grand for the win.
Sure. Well, it's not just the 50 grand. Nick probably has, bonuses based on his performance at shows from his supplement companies as well, right? Some places will give you either a percentage or, depending on the prize money, even match, what it could be for prize money.
Especially if the Pittsburgh Pro represents your company. Pittsburgh Pro champion represents your company.
Doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt, right? So there's incentives that way. That 50,000 could have been, 75 or more. Nick's got several sponsors.
Second was 50, wasn't it?
Yeah, second was 50. So maybe Nick did get some sort of a performance bonus based on that as well, right? I mean, that's how they do it in business. It's to incentivize people to do well for the company. And Nick is working for these companies at the end of the day. Very strong possibility. These guys are definitely, I think, motivated by money, but it can't
as far
be
as
their primary goal.
the titles are concerned. They're probably more worried about money when it comes to contracts and making so much. But for a
Absolutely.
show, yes, the money to them probably is a bonus.
It's secondary, I think, to wanting to do well and win shows for that.
At this stage,
just
of
that
the
drive
game.
as an athlete. Yeah, at
For a
this
guy
stage
that
of the
wants
game.
to win the O, that's his for the win the Olympia. For a guy that thinks he's going to place maybe 7th or 8th at the Olympia, it's about the money, probably. A show like that.
Well, regardless of your motivation, you do well, whether it be in bodybuilding or in business, whatever it might be. You do well, and you excel
It's
over
like
others,
it's like
and the money will come.
EP09. You get a big video, you're happy with all the subscribers that you're getting, but you get a little bit
Yeah,
more money too, but you're probably more, geez, my subscriber number's going up, and look at how many
I am.
views. You look at your channel and it's like, geez, look, that video has tens of thousands of views. That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that of it too. It's like, yeah, I won the Pittsburgh Pro. Yeah, and here's 100,000. Whoa!
Well, yeah. It's like, okay, I'll take that for sure. But you're right. It's around the same thing. The subscriber count is what we look for first, and then you look at the video revenue.
It
For
is a
sure.
funny thing. It is the first thing I look at. If I get negative subscribers, I'm down no matter what. It's like, well, the video's still doing good. I don't care. I want to track that one person down and talk to them. What's the matter? Why don't you
Just
like me?
convince them. Just convince them. No, 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 no. Listen, you've got to
I'll
come
do
back.
you a free comparison.
What is it you didn't like? I can change. I promise I can change.
I wouldn't do that if I were you. You're going to get a lot of people that subscribe to you just for being a Nimrod and one unsubscribing you for being a Nimrod. It's like, well, I'm going to continue to be a Nimrod.
Now, you know what? Both of us have a large amount of integrity in the videos that we put out. And if it's somebody that doesn't necessarily enjoy it, okay, do your thing, man. I'm going to keep doing mine.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
I'll throw
But you
the odd
definitely
negative
get
one.
more. What? Sorry, what?
I'll throw the odd negative one in there.
When it's
Video.
warranted. Yeah, when it's warranted. When it can't be ignored. When it may really spark some passion as a content creator. Those are the things that could spark that.
Well, when it's a fan request too, I have to do it.
Sure, that's another definite criteria for putting out videos like that, for sure. If people are tagging you on Instagram, it's like, hey man, check this out. You should talk about this. I'm definitely more motivated to do so. For sure. But anyway, look, I think that wraps up the Pittsburgh pretty well. I think that we have a very serious path for Nick to get his Olympia qualification. And there are so many more questions to go along with the Olympia at this point now. It's going to be, I think 2025 has the potential to be even more exciting than 2024. And 2024 was a hell of a season.
It will be.
Yeah.
So the Olympia is in November, right? Or October?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look again. You have your calendar there?
Yeah, but I don't have they didn't have the Olympia listed.
Oh.
When I looked at all the events, it only went as far as August.
It is Monday, the 6th of October, 2025.
Monday.
So October. It's a Monday.
No.
Official schedule, Olympia. It
probably starts Monday. It's probably the 11th and 10th and
okay.
11th.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. The Olympia weekend, quote unquote, starts at that time. But yeah, it's going to be that following weekend, like the 10th and the 11th is 11th. Like the prejudging and then the finals on the 11th. Yes.
Friday and Saturday, the big days. So yeah, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, a few months there to rest after the New York.
Sure he does. And like I said, I think there is a path for Nick to take home an Olympia, not a qualification, obviously. I think he's going to take that in New York. But taking home a title, everybody else is off. Possibility. We'll see what happens. But look, I think that's going to do it for this one. This was a ridiculous show. It's what I really wanted to focus on here. We'll see what happens when it comes to New York. I think the podcasts are what I'm going to be keeping up for the next couple of weeks, just because it's something that I can put out more consistently with the crazy fucking schedule that I'm trying to run, living out of hotels and eating meals in microwaves. And
is that a raft?
No, we're on boats. I mean,
no, but you were in a truck, weren't you? Filming that raft?
Oh, yeah. The picture that I sent you
there.
Yeah. One of my guys, yeah.
Have you ever heard Terry, my editor?
No, I haven't heard Terry. I don't think. I can't recall him.
I could have sworn it was Terry, my editor. Really? He sounds exactly like my editor, Terry. I am my editor, Terry.
I realize that.
Don't
realize that. No, nobody's listening.
Oh, shoot. I think they know.
I think we should end it before people figure it out. All right, man. Listen, thanks again for joining me on this one. We'll get a couple more out this week for sure, and we'll see where we end up when it comes to the New York Pro.
Peace out.
Later, man.